Welcome to Pop Flashback, everybody. I'm your host, Rick Smalls.
And I'm Tina Boucher.
And today we're taking a trip back in time to the day MTV launched.
August 1st, 1981.
Yep, August 1st, 1981, to see just how music videos revolutionized pop culture like we know it.
It's hard to believe, but MTV actually started with a pretty limited reach, only broadcasting in New Jersey at the very beginning.
I know, right? It's wild to think about something as massive as MTV starting off so small.
Really goes to show you the power of a good idea, something that can really capture a generation's imagination.
Absolutely. So picture this. It's 12 a.m., August 1st, 1981, and the world's about to be introduced to, well, a whole lot more visual.
The very first thing anyone watching MTV sees is footage of the Space Shuttle Columbia launch.
The Space Shuttle Columbia. Why kick things off with that?
Well, it wasn't just about grabbing people's attention. There was a deeper meaning behind it.
Oh. I'm intrigued.
Think about it. The Columbia launch was a groundbreaking event, a real technological leap forward. And MTV wanted to position themselves as being just as revolutionary.
I see. They were basically saying, hey, we're launching something just as huge as that space shuttle. Get ready for a brand new era of entertainment.
Exactly. And get this, the original plan was to use Neil Armstrong's "one small step" quote from the moon landing for the opening.
Whoa. Now that would have been epic.
It would have been perfect. But Armstrong actually owned the rights to his voice and likeness, and he refused to let them use it.
Oh, man, that's a shame.
It is, yeah. But after the Challenger disaster in 1986, MTV decided to stop using the shuttle launch footage in their IDs.
Yeah, I can understand that. It just became too closely tied to that tragedy.
Right. It wouldn't have felt right to keep using it.
Speaking of iconic MTV moments, do you remember their very first slogan?
I want my MTV.
So simple, but so catchy.
It was incredibly effective, and I think it's because it was more than just a slogan. It was a call to action.
It was like MTV was saying, hey, if you want to be part of this cool new thing, you got to demand it. Tell your cable providers to carry us.
Exactly. And they used celebrity power to get that message across. Big names like Mick Jagger and Madonna were featured in those I Want My MTV ads.
And it worked. It became this cultural phenomenon that you just couldn't escape.
Oh, yeah. And then Dire Straits just cemented it in everyone's minds by actually singing the phrase in their song Money for Nothing.
Oh, man, that was genius. Pure marketing gold. Speaking of MTV's early days, we have to talk about something that's not so celebratory, the lack of diversity, especially in those first few years.
Yeah, it's really important to acknowledge that very few Black artists were featured on MTV at the beginning.
It's crazy to think about MTV without Black artists shaping its landscape like they did later on.
Back then, MTV claimed it was because of their rock-focused format.
But a lot of critics argued that it wasn't just about the music. They said it reflected a bigger problem of racial bias in the music industry in general.
Yeah, and they pointed out that there were plenty of non-rock white artists getting airtime on MTV.
That's a good point. It really took Michael Jackson and his groundbreaking video for Billie Jean to break down that color barrier.
Michael Jackson was a game changer. His videos weren't just about the music, they were cultural events. Visual masterpieces, storytelling, artistry, the whole package. Billie Jean was definitely a pivotal moment. But, the fight for equal representation on MTV and in the music industry as a whole continued for years.
Yeah, progress isn't always a straight line, that's for sure. So Michael Jackson's breaking barriers, but what other music videos from those early days really made a lasting impact?
Well, you got to start with Thriller.
Oh yeah, Thriller. That video basically set a whole new standard for music video production.
Absolutely. It had everything. Epic storytelling, amazing choreography, those incredible zombie makeup effects. It was like a mini movie.
And then there's Madonna's Vogue. That one was all about iconic style and those incredible dance moves that everyone was trying to copy.
And let's not forget about Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. The stop-motion animation in that video was mind-blowing for its time.
Talk about pushing boundaries. That video showed everyone just how creative and experimental music videos could be. I mean, these are just a few examples. But it's clear that MTV brought amazing music videos to audiences all over the world. And those videos helped shape the whole landscape of pop culture.
It's true. MTV wasn't just a channel, it was a cultural force that changed the way we saw and experienced music and so much more.
We've only scratched the surface of MTV's impact. There's so much more to uncover. When we talk about MTV's impact, it wasn't just the music videos themselves, right? It was way bigger than that.
Oh, absolutely. It changed how we consume media fashion, even how artists thought about presenting their music.
MTV wasn't just about the videos, it was like this whole cultural hub. And it had its own personalities, too, those VJs who introduced the videos and gave you all the insider info.
Right, VJs like Martha Quinn, Nina Blackwood, Mark Goodman, they became stars in their own right.
It was like whatever they liked, whatever they wore, it all just resonated with MTV's audience.
They were like the ultimate tastemakers. They were shaping trends for a whole generation. And let's not forget about the fashion on MTV. It was wild.
Big hair-ripped jeans, neon colors.
Yeah.
It was all about self-expression, individuality.
You never knew what you were going to see next. It was a visual feast, for sure.
As MTV changed, so did its programming.
Yeah.
We saw the rise of shows like The Real World, which was like the pioneer of reality TV.
Oh, yeah, The Real World. It was groundbreaking for its time, giving us a glimpse into the lives of these young people, just navigating life relationships, all of it.
Then there was Beavis and Butthead, with their hilarious and sometimes kind of irreverent commentary on music videos and, well, life in general.
They were the ultimate slackers, and they totally captured that sarcastic Gen X humor.
Beavis and Butthead proved that MTV wasn't afraid to take risks, to push boundaries, and they were a huge hit.
It's amazing how MTV managed to stay relevant, to reinvent itself over the years.
They always seemed to know what the next generation wanted.
They gave us a platform to discover new music styles, ideas, and they were always evolving along with the times.
We've talked about some iconic videos, but there are so many more that deserve a mention. Those videos that just captured the spirit of their time and left a mark.
Well, how about Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit? You could argue that video launched the whole grunge era.
It was raw, angst-ridden, and it spoke to a whole generation.
And then on a totally different note, there's Madonna's Like a Prayer. That video was controversial, but it was also stunning.
Like a Prayer tackled some big topics, religion and sexuality. Things that weren't really talked about in mainstream media back then.
It caused a lot of debate, but it also showed that MTV wasn't afraid to push the envelope and address tough issues.
Definitely a bold statement from Madonna. And it really solidified her place as a pop culture icon.
Speaking of bold statements, let's not forget about George Michael's freedom.
Oh yeah, that was a powerful statement against the pressures of fame and the control of record labels. And visually, it had some of the biggest supermodels of the era, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista.
It was a celebration of beauty, individuality, but there was also an underlying message about taking control of your own career.
MTV gave a voice to artists who wanted to challenge the status quo, soothe their minds.
MTV wasn't just about entertainment. It was about giving young people a platform to express themselves, to connect with something bigger.
It all started with a pretty simple idea, playing music videos on TV. It's crazy to think about how something that seemed so new at the time became such a huge part of our culture.
MTV truly revolutionized how we experience music, and that legacy still influences how we consume media today.
It's interesting. We've been talking about all the amazing things MTV did, but there's another side to the story, too.
Yeah, MTV wasn't perfect. They made their share of mistakes, and sometimes those choices led to some pretty heated debates.
Oh, yeah, when you're pushing boundaries, you're bound to ruffle some feathers.
Right. Not everyone's going to be on board with every decision you make, and MTV definitely faced their share of criticism.
One of the big ones was about censorship.
Yeah, a lot of videos got edited or even banned because the content was deemed too controversial.
I remember that. There are all sorts of things that MTV was cautious about. Nudity, violence, political messages. It was a tricky landscape for them to navigate.
They were trying to figure out what their audience could handle, what was acceptable, what wasn't.
And this was during the rise of groups like Tipper Gore's Parents Music Resource Center, PMRC.
Exactly. The PMRC had a lot of power, and they were pushing hard for the music industry to clean up its act. And MTV was right in their crosshairs.
I mean, those parental advisory explicit content stickers we see everywhere today, those came about because of the PMRC's influence, didn't they?
You got it. They wanted parents to have more control over what their kids were exposed to.
It's wild to think about how much has changed since then, what we consider acceptable on TV.
And MTV was often leading those conversations about censorship and free speech, even starting nationwide debates sometimes.
Besides censorship, there was another challenge MTV faced, staying relevant as musical tastes evolved and new genres came on the scene.
Right. As grunge started to fade and hip-hop and pop became more popular, MTV had to change with the times.
Their move away from music videos to include more reality shows was a big turning point for them.
It was a major shift for a channel that was built on music television. Some people saw it as a betrayal, like they were abandoning what made them MTV.
I can see that. But others argued that it was just smart business. They had to do something to stay alive in a changing world.
And let's be real, reality TV was exploding in popularity. MTV had to evolve or risk becoming obsolete.
But even with fewer music videos, MTV still held a lot of sway over the music scene.
Oh, yeah. They were still breaking new artists, shaping trends through shows like TRL and Unplugged. Those shows became cultural touchstones in their own right.
So even though their programming evolved, MTV never really lost its connection to music.
That connection to music and their ability to adapt to change, to stay in tune with young people, that's what kept MTV going.
It's been an amazing ride for MTV, from a small experiment in New Jersey to a global powerhouse.
They had their ups and downs, their wins and losses, but no one can deny the impact they've had.
They brought us iconic music videos, shows, moments that have stayed with us, shaped how we experience music and media.
They gave generations of young people a voice. They reflected and influenced the trends and conversations that define those times.
From music videos to reality TV, they were there capturing the changing world around us.
The MTV of today might look different, but their legacy continues to shape how we experience music and media.
Well, that about wraps up our look back at the day MTV launched and how it changed everything.
It's been a trip down memory lane.
Thanks for joining us on Pop Flashback, everyone.
Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode.
Until then, keep those music memories alive.